All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me live, especially if you are in Portugal for Laracon EU. Ooh, my focus looks off. Let's see if we can fix that. Ooh. Nope, maybe. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, so today I wanted to take the opportunity kind of for myself to attempt to run the Laravel 10 shift. This is something I've been working on for probably the past week and a half. I've been prepping it for since the beginning of the year, really, but really deep in the code in the last week or so. So first run ever. Well, that's a bit of a lie. This will be the second run ever. I ran it earlier just to make sure that it actually would run in an effort to not waste a whole lot of stream time. So it does actually run on the server. Now, whether or not it does what we want, that's the part I want to look at today. So for those that haven't maybe seen a previous stream, I don't necessarily get into the shift code too often. There are definitely some streams about it, but it's infrequent compared to some of the other stuff like packages or PRing things to Laravel itself. There's some pieces in here. Basically, the way any shift works is it's kind of like the old school chain of responsibility kind of thing. Or you can even think of it like a collection pipeline for being familiar with Laravel. There's basically this set of tasks that every shift has, and it's just a set of these classes that follow a real simple interface of being a task, which just has a perform. You perform that task, and then it potentially has a commit that it makes. And it's super straightforward, and each shift has 30, 40, 50 of these individual tasks. So just get a feel for the Laravel 10 shift kind of from a code, from a really low level perspective. It formats the code, it does short array syntax, it checks class properties, optional parameter orders, all these different tasks. Some are Laravel, but some are PHP specific as well. For example, optional parameter order matters. If you have an optional parameter, that starts to matter more in Laravel 8 if it comes before a required parameter. That's no longer kind of juggled by PHP. There's also some Laravel 10 specific things like updating the core files, but there's other tasks too that maybe get shared. For example, a lot of tasks are out of the Shift workbench now. That's just kind of a place where you can run these tasks individually. For example, converting optionals, Laravel optionals helper to null safe things, again, now that are in PHP 8. So faker methods. So there are some things even that are from previous shifts that maybe used to be optional changes, but now are required because maybe they were deprecated and now removed. So those are some really good examples of some things you'll see in here. So this is kind of just a highlight, but there's probably line 73 starts at 44, so roughly 30 tasks so far. Individual bits of automation that happen to make sure that you're upgraded to Laravel 10 and have an application that looks as if you ran, Laravel new once Laravel 10 was released. So that's pretty cool. So what I want to do right now, though, is kind of run this against the laravelshift.com website, which is a Laravel application, and kind of see what comes out the other side. So I'm going to actually swap over to my MacBook here just because there's some SSH stuff and some keys. So let me fire this up. We're going to watch the logs, and if you're not familiar with the shift logs, I gave a whole talk about them at Laracon like 2018, a long time ago. It's called Laravel by the Numbers. You can check it out. It's on YouTube. But what I'll do is I'll start running this from my terminal on my MacBook Pro, and we should start seeing that log file that I talk about in that presentation start getting output here. So let's just tail that. Again, like I said, I did do a run before, so there's this run. So we should see that get truncated. It just gives us some shift version information, a unique ID for this particular run. That's, again, all for logging. And everything you see here now is kind of more analytical information. It allows me to improve shift. But we'll kind of watch this and see those tasks that I was talking about completed with a little bit of a timestamp. Again, just some analytical information. So one of the things that it's doing now, of course, is formatting. That's that code format task. So it took about 20 seconds. It's doing the short array task now. So we're just gonna let this burn through here, and we'll see kind of how it all looks in the PR. There should be a lot of stuff. This is actually it's a pretty simple upgrade as far as the actual code changes into the core files, but it's actually it's a really, really tedious upgrade if you want to follow all of Laravel's conventions, because Laravel has now adopted types in Laravel 10. So there's a lot of type hints, not only in parameters that were added to the skeleton code, but mostly to the return types in all of the skeleton code. So, you know, controllers, requests, migration, the service providers, factories, just everything that comes out of the box with Laravel now has some typing around it. So to add all those and put those all in your code, again, if you want to kind of follow the latest conventions, which is what it's all about, you know, Shift needs to be able to do that for you, again, to make your application look as if it were always running Laravel 10. So that's going to be a lot of changes. So I kind of want to see what that looks like in action here, and then we'll kind of take a nitpick through the PR. And if I have time, I'll maybe make some live fixes, but if not, again, just kind of a sneak peek at the Laravel 10 Shift. Again, first actual run, first project here against it. So looks like I have some parse errors. This is actually, so Shift, some of the tasks will actually use Nikic parser to analyze the code, and apparently I've got a file in my project that has a syntax error, so I'll have to dig that up on my own. It seems to be the same one repeating over and over and over again, so not a huge deal there, but probably something I want to look at. So we see that typing and that parsing actually was kind of intensive. So we went from 70 seconds to about 140 seconds. So a bulk of that work, even for a computer, took a minute, literally a minute to do all that. So imagine doing all that by hand if it took the computer with a massive CPU to do all that. So. Okay, cool. So just like any other shift, we get a PR, so let's go check that out. Okay, so 11 commits, 380 files changed. See, again, that's massive, and I guarantee you that's all around the typing. So let's take a peek at this, again, kind of from a user perspective, but again, kind of me as a creator perspective. Did I get everything in here right? You know, does this make sense? Okay, so includes the changes for upgrading to Laravel 10, great. Committed to the test branch, of course. All this is pretty boilerplate, so I feel like that's good. I just wanted to make sure this says Laravel 10. Okay, so we shift core files, we converted optional to null safe, we did those faker methods, we converted dates to property cast. So again, this was one of the old deprecations. Dates has been deprecated for a while now, but it was finally removed, the model property dates. So you should use cast instead. So that was automated for me. All the config files, those are always annoying because they're constantly changing. New options being added or updated, or new env variables. Okay, so we bumped the Laravel dependencies. We're going to look at the actual code here in a second. I just want to kind of fine tooth the PR first. Okay, so here's that typing. So we add PHP types to core methods. So that's the Laravel stuff. Then we add PHP type hints. Technically, we're adding the PHP type hints from doc blocks. So I should probably make that more clear. Like, where did we get these type hints, right? These are the ones that came from the doc blocks. So again, I'll look at the code here in a second, and then we remove redundant types in doc blocks. Great. Okay, Shift could not upgrade that. Version 10, let's make sure this link looks good. Yes, it does. Shift upgraded your config file. Actually, you know what? This link is dead. So that's one thing I need to fix. So I'm just going to take some screenshots here. This kind of is my quick way to add a quote-unquote ticket for me to kind of fix something. Okay, Shift did the true customizations, good. Shift updated your dependencies for Laravel 10, good. Laravel 10, so again, just making sure that a lot of these are templates, but I need to make sure that the kind of the variables swap out, so this doesn't say Laravel 9, for example. Okay, so these are the things that jumped major versions, and you know, as such, you might want to go check them out. So they should all be clickable to packages, great, and from there you can kind of look at the upgrade guide. All right, and that's the link to the Laravel 10 repo, so that's broken. Got a screenshot of that, so that looks good. Laravel 10 added PHP types to all userland code included in a new Laravel application. In an effort to modernize your code, Shift added types to any method used by Laravel within your application. To any method used by Laravel. Does that make sense? Shift added types to any method used by Laravel. I don't know if I like the word used by Laravel. It's like included. I kind of use the word included here. These are those little nuances, but they matter because you know, you want to relay the right information about what that means. Okay, anyway, let's take a look, because this is the massive one, and we can see from the scroll bar here. Yeah, this is massive. So this is where a bulk of the file changes happen. So again, we see 380 files changed. A lot of them are here, and again, you can tell from this tiny little scroll bar. But what this is doing is adding all of the types, or return types, to methods, again, that are part of Laravel's kind of skeleton application. So for example, commands are something Laravel has and generates as part of your application. The handle method now is void, or returns void by default. So that's what it's adding here, all these different pieces. So yeah, again, every command, I've got tons of commands because that's how I manage the application. If we get into all the controllers, we notice now that, you know, index is response, stores redirect, update. So yeah, we're gonna have all the controllers now have type hints for returns, possibly even parameters depending. So yeah, all of my controllers, if we go down all the requests, so we got rules as array, messages an array. Yeah, I mean, this is awesome. Again, if you wanted to adopt this convention and you were to do this by hand, I mean, imagine how long this would take you. I mean, Shift isn't even a huge application. I mean, it's probably a medium-sized application, but man, look at this. I mean, the scrolling, I'm going quick, and the scrolling is endless. All the migrations, so up and down, are all void. Crazy. Seeders. Yeah, so everywhere Shift kind of figures out and runs those, even in the tests, right? Your test cases are void. They don't return anything. So again, a lot of the file changes are in this particular commit. It seems to be good though. All right, cool. Now with type hints in your code, defining types within PHP doc blocks is redundant. Laravel has removed all of the @param and @return tags from doc blocks for methods which now have types, Maybe I should say something like, can I edit this? Yeah, I can. Which are now typed with PHP. So maybe something like that? I don't know. Which are now typed with PHP, which are now typed by PHP? I don't know. Similarly, Shift removed these tags from any doc block where the method has equivalent type hints. However, if you wish to preserve your full doc block, you may undo this commit by running this specific command. Awesome. Okay, so let's kind of take a look at this one. I actually removed a lot of the doc blocks in my code already. I've never been a big fan of doc blocks, at least not from the typing perspective. So a lot of these are just default things that are left over. So, but we see here that, okay, schedule, void, all that's been typed now in those previous commits. So it's removed that. So that's kind of what this particular task does. So even in something core like the handler, throwable, returns void, it's already removed. So all the service providers, yeah. So anywhere it matches up and it's been defined in PHP, it's removed it. So pretty straightforward commit there, I think. It looks good though. I would expect it to get a lot more in most applications, but again, I've run some Workbench tasks where I've just blanketly removed entire doc blocks from my code base. Laravel 10 now has a dependency for monologue 3.x. Shift detected references to monologue within your application. It did? Is that true? Let's see if that's true. Laravel shift. Do I have monologue in my application code? Let's find this. Monologue. Oh, you know what it is? I bet you it's a config file. Not twig. What the heck? Yeah, it's the logging config file. It would be nice if... It would be nice maybe if I ignored the config logging file, or I gave it a pass, right? That would be nice. It'd probably be smart to do that. You're not really using it in code if it's just a reference in the logging file. What this really matters is if you were, if you were like newing up something somewhere, that would be bad. So yeah, I think what I could do is probably just say if that's in the config logging file, ignore it. So we could do that. Okay, next one, all of the underlying Symfony components have been upgraded to shift detected references. Is that true as well? Symfony. Let's just make it use Symfony. Oh, I do. Of course I do. Yeah, I've got processes, YAML for the Workbench. Yeah, okay. So that's legit. That's legit. All right, Laravel began using Vite. I am using Vite. Tailwind, Pint, Vite. Yeah, I've got Vite. Okay, so this probably shouldn't happen if you're using Vite. You don't need to talk about that. So let's just pretend that didn't happen. And let's pretend this one didn't happen, right? Okay, shift detected you're using Horizon or Nova. I am. And be sure to run view cache clear. Great. And then congratulations, you're on the latest version. Awesome. Of course, my test failed because Laravel 10 is not actually released yet. Okay, good. That was actually pretty good. Called by Laravel. Oh yeah. Let's see how that fits here. Any methods used by Laravel with, okay, so in an effort to modernize your code, shift added types to any method called by Laravel within your application. Yeah. I like called better. Yeah, let's change it. It's better than used. It's more code-esque. It's not super technical like invoked, but let's get that. Oh. All right, let me just do my little screenshot fix. Okay, let's fix a few of these and then I'll probably cut it short. Okay, so we had that monologue 1 and Vite. I think we can fix those two. Let's go fix that. All right, let's close this, go back to shift, and let's get into, one of those was monologue. I think these are all under miscellaneous. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so monologue, empty paths. I think what we could do is we could just straight array diff whatever it finds against config logging.php. I think that would be the simplest thing to do. So let's do that. So whatever you find, and then basically diff out config logging. And if you're empty at that point, then don't leave this message. Because the logging file, it's going to get upgraded by Shift automatically. So again, if there were any references in there that were bad, that's going to get caught by a different task anyway. Okay, and then actually, coincidentally, in this same miscellaneous is Vite. So basically, we would want to say if shift file exists, what was that, vite.config.js, is that right? Basically return, right? So if you have a Vite configuration file, there's no reason to tell you about Vite, right? Just reduce a little bit of that noise. Is that correct? I think it's vite.config.js. Uh-oh, sorry, I thought Izzy was awake, but she's good. Vite.config.js, all good. Okay, let's commit this and we'll rerun it, right? Let's just kind of see if our work looked good. So let's do a git status, git add -p. So we'll diff that against the logging file, great. And if you have a Vite config file, then of course we're not going to leave that comment, good. Git commit -tweaks from live stream. Git push origin head. All right, let's go out actually, and we need to close. Let's just close this PR to avoid any confusion, and we'll rerun it. So let me jump back to the MacBook Pro here. And let's see if we can fix this and run it again. So git Laravel 10, did I pulled that up, yeah, okay. All right, let's get our SSH worker 02. Worker 02 is like my extra worker, you know, secondary worker. It's kind of what I just test things out on. So let's do var, what was that? tail-f var log shift test. Yeah, there it is. All right. And let's, all right, we should be rerunning now. Yep, there we go. Okay, so it's pulling in some new stuff. We got a new version of Shift from the deployment, and it's going to format with Pint. Yeah, okay, so we saw this before. Let's make sure I close that. I did. Good. All right. So let's let this get running. So we saw last time it took about 2 minutes because there was a massive amount of type hints that it added. So we'll give this a second. What do we think, audience? Who's out here? Daniel, Fabian? What do y'all think? Laravel 10 shift looks good. Ship it, ready to go. Okay, yeah, so most of these tasks actually are pretty quick, taking less than a second. But yeah, those type hint ones, because it parses every file in the application multiple times, they take a sec. All right, so we got anonymous migrations. I might make a note about removing all of those doc blocks too, just kind of thinking about that out loud. All right, speaking of which, we saw all this run, so unless it fails, let's go to desktop. Called, okay, yeah, we could fix these in the background while we're waiting. Let's do that. So what was that? It was like used by Laravel. Where was that? What was this called? Used by Laravel within your application. Used by Laravel within, there we go. Okay, so we'll do this. called. I like that better. Okay, so that fixes that. Okay, we fixed this, hopefully, which are now typed with PHP. Which are now typed with PHP. Let's revisit this. Which are now typed. Oh, I changed it. Which are now? No. There's going to be a lot of those. Crap. Doc blocks for methods. All right. Doc blocks for methods, which, come on. Well, oh, capital B, I think. There we go. All right, Laravel has removed all of the params from methods which now have types. Now with type hints in your code, defining types within PHP doc blocks is redundant. Laravel has removed all of the which are now typed with PHP, maybe? I think this similarly doesn't really flow well. Shift removed these tags from any dot block. Okay, yeah, I think that part's good. Okay. And then, yes, I need to create the repo. We'll get back to that. I can do that off stream. That's not very exciting. Okay, let's see if our comments, minus the ones I just tweaked, are better. So if we scroll down here, again, we just fixed that, and we just fixed this. Okay, that monologue thing was between these two before the Symfony one, and it is no longer there. Great, so our patch worked. And similarly, the Vite conversion was in here as well, and now it's not here. So good. So we fixed those two things. So I think honestly the main thing left is going to be to create this link. You know, I can fix that again off stream. I just got to go build the repo and push up some sample files. I think the only other thing I noticed was that this is still Laravel. It pulls the latest version of Laravel, which is technically 9.48, because 10 has not been released yet. So I just need to hard code, you know, caret 10.0 there. So, or well, technically I need to hard code like 10.x -dev or whatever the, you know, that way when I release this, a beta version of this next week, you would actually be able to download and run Composer update. So I'm going to tweak that next. So let's just do my little handy screenshot there. So we'll tweak that. And let's see what's going on in the comments. Is there anything else major about 10, or did they just bump the major version because of the breaking type change? There are deprecations. Again, that dates thing is one of them. It's not, you know, again, it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you were still doing that, there's a fair number of deprecations. The upgrade guide it's incomplete, but it does give you an idea of some of the big changes. There are a lot of deprecations that have been floating around in Laravel because of LTS. They didn't get rid of them, but now that LTS is gone, you know, they can safely be removed finally. So the dates property is one of them. Query base is another one. The dispatch now methods. There's a lot of deprecations so far that are documented. Redirect home. So these are all things that Shift would find and replace for you. But as far as like paradigm shifts, like paradigm changes, like short of the typing, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I've seen, you know, that's there. So yeah, if you don't have any of these deprecated things that you're doing, and you don't care about typing, and you don't override any methods, you know, you're probably okay. I don't know. You may have to adopt the typing because of the inherited class. I remember a debate about this. I'd have to test it to see if it's true or not, but I'm pretty sure that when you inherit from a class, so for example, think of a Laravel command, you're extending a base command from Laravel, and that base command is going to now be typed. I think if you don't have the type in yours, I think PHP is going to complain. I think I'd have to verify that. There are cases where it won't. So again, it just kind of depends on if it's defined in the parent class. So if it is, then yeah, there's a crap load of changes because you got to type everything. So all right, if I have types in array/collection doc blocks, are they going to be deleted in the shift, e.g. array int? No, that's a good question. No, shift will not delete. I've set it up to not delete any type hint that is more specific, is what I call it. So if you have a doc block with a specific type hint that is more specific than the one provided by PHP, the example you've given here is in PHP, all I would say is, that collection parameter is an array or whatever. But in your doc block, you have array, and then you actually, type that it's an integer key and it's users underneath. Or if you had like a string array and you use string bracket in your doc block, Shift is smart enough not to remove those because they're more specific than what PHP is providing at this time. So good question. Yeah, I think typing is required in some cases, which is why yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there are probably some areas where you wouldn't have to type your code, like controllers, because you're not extending anything from a parent class. But I think in your service providers, in your commands, in middleware, where you're actually extending a base class which has a method defined that now has a type, you'd have to end up typing it, and that's going to be a lot of tedious changes. So yeah, that's probably the biggest paradigm shift. Laravel normally has two-ish of those each release. So like last time was like class-based routing and anonymous migrations. So that's something. That's a paradigm shift. Again, you don't have to adopt it all the time. So I believe only userland is type hinted, but the framework isn't for backwards compatibility. So if one doesn't add the type hints, it should mostly work. Yeah, I agree. I think it should mostly work, but I don't think leaving out the types would work everywhere. Yeah, mostly, exactly. So. Okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining live. I will stream next week either more changes to this or maybe some last minute changes to Laravel 10 itself. I've been kind of thinking about some other things that I might want to squeak into the framework given the time is now for breaking changes. So if you have any feedback on what you saw here today, shoot me a DM on Twitter or leave a message in the YouTube comments. And again, thanks everybody. See you next time.